All right, everyone. Review Realm here, Sam and myself. And today we are going to talk about, I think, in my opinion, one of the biggest releases of 2020, just because of how unexpected it was, given this band's history and everything like that. If you don't know what you just clicked upon, Sam and I are going to talk about Static X's new album, Project Regeneration, Volume 1. This is Static X's first album in 11 years. It's the follow-up to 2009's Cult of Static, and this is their 7th album overall. The very sad thing that happened since the last album is that Wayne Static passed away in 2014. Now, November 1st, 2014. Now, when that happened, I think myself and a lot of other fans thought, that's it. That band is never going to be able to come back again. And then suddenly, we have this announcement that they're putting out a new album. I'm like, how? How is that possible? So what Project Regeneration is all the other members of Static X, apparently they stumbled upon unused vocal recordings from Wayne. And so they said, hey, we have enough material here, let's build an album around it. And that's exactly what they did with Project Regeneration. And right off the bat, I love this album.
You know what? It's funny. Out of all the albums we've listened to this year, this one's one of the better ones, one of the solid ones. A lot of fun. I'm not too familiar. I mean, obviously, I'm familiar with Wisconsin Death Trip.
Yep.
And then was it their second or third album with the green cover on it that opened up with Destroy All? Mm-hmm. Those two albums. And I thought this was really good. I thought this was fun. Had some solid tracks.
This album, to me, it was like Wayne never left. They did it so well in building the music around him, keeping the spirit of what Static X is, and still having it be a memorial to him.
7 of these 12 tracks, we'll say 11 because the opening is an instrumental.
Yeah.
7 of these 11 tracks have Wayne up front.
Their new vocalist, who, they've tried to have the mystery, just have him known as Zero. But we know, most people know now that it's Edsel Dope. He really sounds like Wayne.
Yeah, there are definitely songs on this. I was actually surprised how many of these were Wayne Static looking at this. And yeah. I'd have to listen again to differentiate.
There was bits and pieces of this album where I was like, okay, that's Zero. But then a lot of it, I was like, is this Wayne or is this Zero? That's how hard it was. Until I actually looked at the track list itself, I was like, this actually has a lot of Zero on it. And he does an excellent job of sounding like Wayne.
Yeah, no, he does. Like we said, it flows. There are definitely, and maybe you know a little bit more about this than I do, John, but there are tracks on here that have a title, and then it'll say Project Regeneration on it after the title.
I know why that is because they had a controversy with their old guitarist, Trip Eisen, and what happened was he wanted credit for the song, and the ones that say Project Regeneration next to him are the ones that he co-wrote with Wayne. He didn't want them changed around too much because he helped write them. So That's why they have that Project Regeneration thing next to them.
Not that there's a bad difference, but you can definitely tell there's a slight difference in the writing between the Project Regeneration tracks and just the regular tracks. I almost feel like
a little bit.
Project Regeneration tracks a little more old school Static X, and then the rest of them, they just, very industrial sounding. I don't know, did Static X have that much electronic in their old albums?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The main focus of Static X, I think, really, and it's very, very apparent on this album and, throughout their entire history, a lot of their focus is really on, sequencers and, sampling and, stuff like that. And they've always said, the guitar and, everything is more of, a foundation. That's what I love about Static X so much is, most of their songs are pretty simple, in terms of the way the guitar is and everything like that. But the way it just sounds, I'm quoting Wayne here himself, it just sounds like this wall of crunch, and it's so tight and it's ridiculous. I love it.
Like you said, 11 years later, no Wayne Static, and this is solid. This sounds really good. If you've never listened to a Static X album prior to this, you'd assume it's the same exact lineup.
First time I heard Hollow, I'm like, this is the real deal here. I'm like, these guys aren't messing around.
Hollow for me sticks out. Terminator Oscillator is
I love Terminator Oscillator. That's a fun one.
My Destruction, those tracks really stick out to me. I think they're all this is a tough one. This album, I don't really think there's anything that's really weak. Maybe towards the end of the album it kind of slow down a little bit.
Yeah, definitely highlights for me were Hollow, like Terminator, Oscillator. All these years was pretty fun. Bring You Down, My Destruction. Something of My Own is probably my favorite song on the album. I think that's the one where like Wayne like really shines the most on this album, is that one. They keep another tradition. They do Otsego Placebo, which is something they've always done. They've always had, most of their albums, they've always had a song with Otsego in the title.
You know, like I said, towards the end of the album, it seems to sound dwindle a little bit. Dead Souls isn't a bad track. This album, what you saw is what you got.
That's why I was so excited for it, because it's so unexpected. It's like I never would have thought this would have happened after Wayne had passed away.
Yeah, I mean, very few bands have somebody who's one of their who's their essence in that band have ever succeeded afterwards. I mean, the Doors tried it, no success. Queen tried it. They're just Queen. But, you look at bands like AC/DC, Bon Scott passed away, very important part of that band. And then they get Brian Johnson with the, Back in Black. And everyone's like, well, I don't know about this. And then that becomes their biggest album.
Yeah. What I think's a little bit different with Static X's situation is that Wayne pretty much, he was the guy in the band. Not to say that the other guys aren't important, but like Wayne was the guy. And, with him passing away, it's kind of like exactly what we had thought. Like, how does this continue? So I think this band does an excellent job in the fact that they have this new singer, but they don't go outright with who he is. They don't want the spotlight on him. What they want is a memorial for Wayne, and they want it to be about him. And I think they do that extremely well.
This is one of the few albums so far this year, I will say, I will be putting this back.
Oh, absolutely. And the other shocking thing with this is only volume 1. There's going to be another album.
So my question would be, if they're doing volume 2, is that stuff that Wayne also wrote, or is that going to be stuff that they wrote without Wayne?
I really don't know how much of Wayne's stuff that they found. With this album, it seems like there was a lot. To have stuff still left over would be really surprising to me. These recordings from Wayne go as far back as like 2004. That's like almost like Machine era, like Shadow Zone. That goes really far back.
Yeah, that's weird, especially to dig that far back and be able to make the tracks sound really good. Sometimes when bands do that, they grab their B-sides or stuff they didn't use and they've tried to re-release it or whatnot, or release it in general years later, and it's like, oh, okay, this is kind of why it wasn't released in the first place. Here, everything shines.
This is not a long album either. 12 songs, I believe, and then only
under 40 minutes.
About 40 minutes or so. I said, wow, that's not long. And I said, that's perfectly fine with me. I said, these songs are fun to listen to. Finish the album pretty quickly, but you're pretty happy by the end, by the time that you finish it. Like, this is a really solid album.
It's definitely worth a listen to a few times, several times.
I hope you're as happy as I was listening to Project Regeneration Volume 1. Definitely a big surprise. I think for metal altogether. Let us know what you guys think in the comments section below. How happy you are with the return of Static X, essentially. And they're going to continue because we got Volume 2 coming up. Don't know when yet, but you'll be sure to see us back.
Be looking forward to it.